Strength training in the sport of swimming is one of the key components to developing an entire career, especially for the more mature student athlete. When you look at the parameters of strength training, you look at the different guidelines that we go through at Auburn University in our strength training program, Brian Karkoska, our strength coach, is going to put you through a sequence of what the Auburn Swimmers' daily, weekly, and seasonal routine is. My name is David Marsh. I'm the head swimming coach at Auburn University, and one of our goals in our program is to develop that athleticism in the weight room, bring it here, transition through the different things you'll see on this video, and bring it into the water ultimately for hopefully developing national and Olympic champions. Next is Brian Karkoska.
Thanks, Coach Marsh. My name is Brian Karkoska. I'm the head strength and conditioning coach here at Auburn University for the Olympic sports and primarily for swimming. Today we're going to discuss the strength and conditioning program for the Auburn swimmers that we do here for a year-round program. I will discuss several of the different phases that we go through, starting with our circuit and ending through our taper phase. We'll also be talking about our goals that we established at the beginning of the year with Coach Marsh and some of the other different philosophies that we have for the swimmers throughout the entire season. We go into our competitive season with understanding that we need to develop our athletes in several different ways, and one is developing their athletic ability. Making a swimmer a better athlete has been our main focus. We'd like to believe that developing a swimmer in the weight room and focusing in on developing their swimming ability would make them a better swimmer, but we also believe that if we develop their athletic ability, that would obviously make them a better swimmer. Next, we like to focus in on what our goals are for that year. If it's an Olympic trial year, we like to obviously focus in on developing them and getting them ready for the Olympics. Each year our focus and our main focus is develop them and get them ready for the NCAA competition. Southeastern Conference Championships have been one of our minor goals. Obviously the NCAA has been our major goal. Getting on to what also we try to develop is our mental toughness and discipline in the weight room. Hopefully there's a transfer into what we try to accomplish in that area into the water. If we have them being tougher and more disciplined in here, obviously their focus can be more tougher and disciplined in the water. And also doing individual assessment with each athlete. If we have problems as far as strength levels or flexibility levels, we try to tackle those in appropriate ways. The philosophies that we use to approach when training the swim team as far as strength and conditioning, we have several different philosophies. One is to begin with communication with the head coach. We believe that is the cornerstone of making this program actually work, is a development of an open pathway of communication between the head coach and the strength coach, leading on to establishing our goals for the upcoming year. And this also leads to establishing individual programs for individual assessment of the swimmers that we're competing. We also want to make sure that our resistive training coincides to what's going on in the pool and obviously the qualities that are being developed in the pool at that time. If they are in a program to which they're competing for a high volume of training, then we want to make sure that our volume of training coincides to what they're doing. And as we get along into our strength and power phases, we also move along in our resistive training into strength and power. And as we go through the taper in the pool, we'll go through taper here in the weight room. One of our main focuses is maximizing the strength and power of each athlete without excessive hypertrophy. Obviously through gaining weightlifting experience, you will have some hypertrophy, some muscle increase in size, but we want to limit the amount of size that the athlete will gain, obviously because of more muscle gaining, you will cause a swimmer to sink. We also try to be more event specific, try to break it into the 4 main strokes, being free, fly, breast, and backstroke, and making sure that what we're doing here in the weight room coincides to a lot of the movements that are happening into the pool. And also we try to make sure that each program is based for the individual, making sure that if there are certain needs that that individual needs, whether it be flexibility or more strength gains, that we try to make those goals accountable and get them established for what we're trying to accomplish with the swimmers. Our first phase of training is circuit training. That usually coincides with the beginning of school. This usually starts from weeks 1 to 3. Circuit training has been usually developed and used by us for basic general fitness and conditioning. We figure our swimmers really haven't done much over the summer since senior nationals. We want to get them in here and kind of get them back into the groove of things, back into lifting. Our circuits are set up in a different format than typical circuits. We try to get the individuals working by themselves, but also as a team. We have anywhere from 45 to 60 stations that we set up here in the weight room and throughout the Coliseum. And we try to have those stations range anywhere from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. The weights that we'll be using are sub-maximal weights, anywhere from 50% to 70% of their maximum effort. What we try to develop in our circuits is mental toughness, team cohesion, and a good work ethic. Obviously, with all the athletes in here at once, they get to see that everyone is working at a very high, intense level, and we try to create an atmosphere to which we could obviously generate a better team cohesion. We also try to incorporate some of our basic low-level plyometrics and training techniques. The circuit is obviously a good time. It's the beginning of the year to get some of the low-level and some of the basics in at this time. We also like to establish a lot of our injury prevention exercises. Obviously, the shoulders do become overused as the season goes along, so we like to establish a lot of our preventative injury and preventative medicine type of exercises during this time. This exercise that we're doing is a basic beginner of the Olympic lifts. We're going to be doing some jump shrugs. Obviously, doing correct form and technique on this is essential. Usually having a coach there present that is familiar with the Olympic lifts to demonstrate and coach the athlete through it would be essential. Next exercise we're going to discuss and learn is the power shrug. Very similar to the jump shrug, and the only difference is that we're actually not jumping and leaving the platform. Again, the athlete is doing the same simulated motion as the jump shrug. Only difference is the athlete's not leaving the floor. Generally, typically using heavier weight and concentrating on the hip extension. Knees are flexed. Hard shrug at the top. The next series of exercises we'll be discussing are shoulder preventative exercises. The first one we'll do is a front raise. Obviously, we're using lighter dumbbells, concentrating on the rotator cuffs here. We want to bring the dumbbells up to about eye level and not any higher. Also, in part of this series, we'll work on the lateral raise, which will come from the side. Again, primary focus are the rotator cuffs. Next in our series of shoulder preventative exercises, preventive medicine exercises, will be our rear raise. All these exercises, what we're concentrating on here are focal point being preventative. Obviously, swimmers have an overuse injuries with the shoulders, so we want to concentrate on strengthening the shoulders as much as possible and the rotator cuffs. Next we'll do our upright rows. Trying to keep the elbows as high as possible and maintain the dumbbells below the elbows. Next would be our empty cans. Here the athlete's going to turn the dumbbells inward and come at a 45-degree angle off of the thighs. One of our basic plyometric exercises that we like to begin with are med ball drops. Obviously a partner is needed here. The primary focus of this movement is getting more explosion throughout the arms and shoulders. This is to be done, as all plyometrics are, in an explosive manner. The next exercise that we do plyometrically for the upper body and shoulders and chest is going to be a med ball crossover. The athlete's going to start with one hand on the med ball, another hand off the ground, and the athlete will actually push themselves up and switch hands while they catch themselves. It's to be done obviously in an explosive manner as much as possible. Following our circuit training, we go into our strength phase. This usually goes from week 4 to week 10. We like to do this after establishing general strength levels during our circuit so we can go on to more advanced strength training. Our focus during this time becomes our core lifts, i.e. being the bench press, the squat, and our platform lifts, or our Olympic lifts. We like to emphasize a lot of our technique during this time and focus in on developing their levels in certain ranges of motion, as well as getting their basic techniques down for the Olympic lifts. Obviously, the Olympic lifts are more technical, and it's going to take some more time to understand the exact movements with these exercises. During this time, we like to have our sprinters go to a 4-day program, and our middle distance and distance kids go to a 3-day program. We also increase the intensity of the plyometrics while using some medium level plyometrics while doing this. The levels of strength and the repetitions and sets, anywhere from 10 to 5 reps on certain exercises, mainly our core exercises, and intensity will probably go up to anywhere from 70 to 85% of their sub-maximal effort. The next exercise we teach in our series of Olympic lifts are the hang clean. Here the motion is broken and the bar is accelerated upward and caught on the rack or the shoulders of the athlete. This motion is very good when teaching explosive lifting. Again, the athlete will begin in a power position. Start. Accelerate the bar and get underneath it by bending the knees and shooting the elbows. Very explosive movement and a very athletic movement. Two things we like to teach our swimmers. The next exercise we're going to talk about is a general back squat. We like doing this with our athletes, establishing good leg and core strength. The movement's going to be initiated by a break at the hips and then going down to a parallel position, maintaining a good athletic stance, about shoulder width, and the weight distribution on the foot should be middle to foot to heel. We're going to look to make sure the chest is upright and the back remains flat during the entire exercise. Again, the motion is initiated by the breaking of the hips, sitting back, big chest, and you'll notice at the top of the quadriceps or the top of the legs become parallel with the ground. The difference we have here between our regular squats, which we do with all of our athletes, and then sumo squats or a wide stance squat. Our athletes, generally our breaststrokers, will widen their stance and concentrate on using the adductor and abductors a little bit more and be a little bit more stroke specific towards the breaststroke. Exact same motion, breaking the hips, going down, obviously working in different planes. We'll concentrate on using different muscle groups. The next movements that we're going to do are the front squats. Obviously, we've now gone from being a back squat to having the bar across the chest, having high elbows, and the exact same motion as is done here on the front squat as in the back squat. The main focus here is the quadriceps are getting the focal point of the movement, but also establishing a high and maintaining a high point of chest, meaning that the chest and back will remain flat. Very much simulated motion to when a push comes off the wall. After going through our strength phase, we next move on to our power phase. Our power phase will go from weeks 11 to 17. During this phase, we like to have a lot of neuromuscular transfer, and we try to be more event specific during this phase. This is the time when we concentrate primarily on being more explosive as well. What is happening at the pool at this time is they are going through more power, stroke specifics, and we try to do exactly the same here in the weight room. A lot of our basic programs from general strength now move into event specific. We now move into our fly, breast, free, and back in the weight room and do exercise that coincide with those stroke mechanics. We also do specific plyometrics for each of those strokes. If they're doing something to the event of fly, then we try to mimic the motion as much as possible in the plyometric movement. One of the resistive exercises that we like to do when we're talking about specificity for our strokes is, for our fly stroke, we like to use a close grip bench press. Close grip bench press is going to allow the swimmer to develop more of the triceps. Obviously, we're still working on shoulder stability and strengthening the chest, but here the exercise concentrates on a more focused motion and strength range for the fly stroke. Another exercise that we like to do for the fly stroke is a pull-over press. It's a 2 combination exercise. Motion begins by having the athlete bring the weight back and over the head, then to the chest in a press. Working on the 2 ranges of motions in which the fly strokers are most strong. Another exercise that we like to do for the fly strokers are our seated good mornings. This exercise begins by having the athlete place a bar on their back, a seated motion, with their chest up, flat back. They will lower their chest to the bench. Concentrating on keeping the back flat and strong during this motion, hopefully we'll start developing a stronger low back as well as hamstrings. The next exercise we'll discuss is the bent over row. Bent over row is done by having the athlete begin by placing the hands just on the outside of the thighs. Starting with a flat back, the athlete will row the bar towards the chest. You want the athlete bringing the bar in front of the chest or in front of the shoulders, straight up to the highest point of the chest. Obviously the back is flat, keeping it strong and stable with a slight bend in the knees. Another exercise we like doing for our fly strokers in strengthening the lower back and hamstrings is a stiff-legged deadlift. The athlete again is going to maintain a flat back, bringing the bar over to a low position. Obviously the stiff-legged deadlift, you want your athlete to maintain as much rigidness as far as a flat back, but also with the knees. Do want a slight bend in the knees, but actually not too much of a bend. Another exercise that we like doing for our fly strokers is an incline side raise. Obviously trying to mimic the motion in which they're flying, working on the rear deltoid, strengthen the shoulder region. Another set of exercises that we enjoy doing for upper body strength and explosiveness is a bench press complex exercise with a med ball drop. The athlete will perform anywhere from 5 to 8 repetitions on the bench, rack it, and immediately go into med ball drops. Their partner will be there, spot and drop the ball. Going from a strength to an explosive movement. One of the exercises we like doing for our backstrokers is a straight arm pullover. This motion begins by having the athlete bring the bar behind the head and then all the way over, concentrating on a full range of motion throughout the shoulder joint. It's imperative that you use lighter weights, obviously putting the shoulder at a disadvantage when lowering it towards the body. Next exercise we'll be discussing is an assimilated motion to the breaststroke sweep. We use this exercise, it's a dumbbell fly press out that we like to use with our breaststrokers. Dumbbells remain in close to the body on the top, and then a press out as they come through. Trying to use an assimilated motion to that of the breaststrokes, sweeping motion. The next exercise we're going to discuss is the tricep kickback. We like to do this with all of our strokes, obviously as they come through and finish through on their swimming pole. Generally have a kick out. Next exercise we're going to talk about is a standing swim pull down, mimicking the pull over, the swim technique on the lap pull is essential as far as trying to strengthen the motion, is similar to the swim stroke itself, maintaining high elbows just as you would in the pool. Another movement that we like doing as far as a standing swim pull down is a one-arm swim pull down. This one is mimicking the stroke more so for backstroke. working on where they would catch and then pull through. Next exercise we are performing here is the towel press outs. We like to do this for our breaststrokers, mimicking the motion of a pull out underneath the water, pressing through. Another movement we like doing as far as a lat pull is a reverse grip, wide grip, lat pull down for our backstrokers. Here we've changed the hand position, concentrating on pulling, in a motion that's very similar to the backstroke and the catch. Always remember bringing it to the highest point of the chest when doing the exercise. The next one we'll have is the multi-hip. We work it in 4 directions. The first direction we're going to go is for the front, working on the hip flexor. Obviously, swimmers' hip flexors are very important. We want to work on strengthening them as much as possible, especially for kicking technique. Go ahead and reverse it. Now we'll be working in the back section, or the back part of the hamstring. Obviously, again, working on the kicking portion of the swimming technique. For our breaststrokers, we'll do an abduction and adduction. The athlete will put it inside of the thigh and come across the body. Working on the kicking motion for breaststroke. Fourth and final way will be abduction. Obviously working on the outside, the gluteus medius for breaststroke. Another exercise we like doing for our fly strokers and breaststrokers are manual glute ham raises. This is done with a partner. What our athlete is trying to do is concentrate on using the hamstrings in the upward pulling motion. The push-up is nothing more than an assist at the very bottom just to get the athlete off the floor. Now from a side view, obviously you can see that the hamstrings, calves, gastrocs are activated as the athlete comes back up towards the partner. Hamstrings are activated and pulling the athlete up back to the starting position. And then finally, as we get closer to our championships, we move into more of a specialization, or what I like to call a transition phase, or a taper phase. And this generally goes from weeks 18 to 22. During this time, we basically go on individual basis. If certain individuals have certain needs, or if we need to taper them in certain areas, then we do the same exact thing here in the weight room. At this time also, our plyometrics seemingly take a more advanced level and take more so over in the weight room setting. We limit the amount of weights that we're doing at this time to allow for more rest. During this phase, we also are not building any more strength. We're basically doing a lot of maintenance. Our program now has moved from our sprinters lifting to 4 days a week, and our middle distance and distance doing 3 days a week, to everyone moving to a 3-day-a-week program. A lot of times our distance kids will move to a 2-day-a-week program. During this phase, our athletes will not see anything over 80% of their maximal effort. On 2 of the days, we will do core lifts, and on 1 day, we will do auxiliary lifts, generally in the middle of the week. There are competitions generally on the weekends, so we try to do one of our main lifts on a Friday before the competitions. And obviously, as the season gets along, if it's anywhere from 21 to 28 days outside the NCAAs, we will take time off of the weight room and maybe just do plyometrics. One of the basic exercises we like doing plyometrically for the lower body that's very specific to swimming is our squat jumps. The way we make them more specific is we add a streamline into it. The athlete actually will squat down and jump as high as they possibly can. As we develop the athlete's level of strength and explosiveness, and as we get closer to our taper, the athlete will actually use a track start or a staggered start and do the exact same motion. Concentrating as they would coming off the blocks, into start into the pool. The next exercise we like doing is a split cycle jump. Obviously, we do this as we get later along towards our taper. Again, being more specific, using a single leg movement, and also using the streamline, trying to generate one-legged explosiveness. The next lower body plyometric exercise we do like doing here is the knee tuck jump. The athlete will start with their hands out here and bringing the knees up to the hands while they jump. Primary focus here is to be explosive in the lower body, but as well as working the hip flexors. The next plyometric exercise we like doing for the lower body is a start bound. We begin the athletes by doing regular bounds, working on their explosiveness, hopefully mimicking as closely as possible their start off the blocks. Next, we'll go into being more specific by actually doing a track start. The actual movement to where if the athlete was mimicking something of a relay start, the athlete touches and then they jump off the blocks. Next exercise we're going to perform are the back hyperextensions. These help strengthen the lower back of the athlete as well as some of the hamstring. As we get along and be more specific with the exercise as we get along in our season, we'll add a stick in. Athlete will place it along her back, and we'll do a twist as part of the motion, simulating it rolling through the water. Strengthen the regions of the back and hamstrings that they'd be working in the pool. Another movement we like doing for the low back hamstrings is a reverse hyper. Notice the athlete is working on raising the legs with the low back and hamstrings. As we get along in the season, we like to add a twist with it. Athlete will rotate the hips and work on a twisting motion. Another complex training exercise that we like doing with our swimmers as we get longer into our competitive and into our taper part of the season is a front squat, performing anywhere from 8 to 5 repetitions. Concentrate on the strength movement and going immediately into an explosive movement. So we do a front squat plus box jump, doing anywhere from 6 to 8 repetitions of the box jumps. Another complex training exercise we like doing is a dumbbell bench with a clap push-up. Obviously later in the season as we reach our taper, we like to get away from using barbells and going to dumbbells to eliminate the impingement on the shoulders, but also we like doing this type of training to incorporate strength movements with a complex, explosive movement. Hopefully some of the philosophies we shared with you today will help establish a better strength and conditioning program for swimmers. Thank you and good luck with your training.